Father John. We mourn her loss and celebrate her life today, notably on Zoom, or Aunt Jean and Uncle Paul, Michael and Janet, sisters Nancy, Elaine, and Charlene, and Mom's grandchildren. With group confidence, I can say we thank the excellent staff at the Barrie Hospital, especially the palliative care team. As Mom's favorite child, it's not surprising that I was asked to say a few words today. This meant going back in time and reliving a few of our childhood memories. It must be said that Dad and Mom were very frugal and saved everywhere they could for that rainy day, almost like their entire generation. It might be hard for some to believe, but as a rough and tumble guy, I always felt some blame for all the children being banned from using the full house, most likely due to my potential recklessness. Some may not even know that I, as growing up, assumed Mom was part Italian, as a few of our Italian neighbors living in dining room furniture were covered by heavy plastic wrap, never to be used as intended. The upstairs furniture was only ever used when Granny and Grandpa, Aunt Jean and Uncle Paul came for their yearly visit. Can you imagine what Mom would think of today's youth, including our own children, allowing pets to sit on the living room furniture? The horror. As kids, Mom allowed the kids 5-minute showers or baths, not necessarily because there was only one shower or tub to share with 5 children, but wasting any more water than completely necessary was a cardinal sin. I'm not exactly sure how serious a cardinal sin is, but still to this day I have 4 to 5-minute showers, fearing the sin factor. Likewise, the main living room had a decent stereo in a fine cabinet with a built-in radio turntable, used only to play Mom's favorites as Bing Crosby and Dean Martin. The kids' record player was a portable little box. When unfolded, had 2 cheap little speakers. Don't even think was capable of playing in stereo. Of course, it was placed in the basement, but we made the best of it. So our lives as kids was spent time in the basement, or more often outdoors almost all the time. I would be remiss not to recount Mom's most impressive moments, mostly which involved her driving or learning to drive a car. Driving a car did not come naturally to Mom by a long shot. My first memory of Mom's attempt to drive is when we lived in Waterloo, Kitchener. Dad made a noble effort to take Mom out on the streets when they were quiet and there was little fear of accidents on the road. I still remember a car, a British Oxford A30 of 53 vintage. We assumed that all went well until Mom pulled in the driveway, ran over the front one, and almost crashed the car into the front cement porch. This moment of crisis abruptly ended her early driving experience. Mom's learning to drive didn't continue until we moved to Scarborough years later. I remember Mom getting her learner permit and spending a lot of time studying the rules. She seemed determined to conquer her driving phobias finally. On the day of her big driver test, we heard the news over the dinner table that Mom had failed her driving test miserably. We were met with tears of dismay, which couldn't be consoled for days after. Third try. Not to be defeated in her years-long conquest, Mom never gave up, studying harder and practicing on the road with lessons from driving instructors. Mom's year-long wait finally came again, starting in a bustling parking lot on a stormy day in Scarborough. The story begins when Mom returns from the parking spot. The car wouldn't move. Perplexed, the instructor told Mom that the emergency brake was on. And So after that moment of embarrassment, when she released the brake, the car went crazy fast and hit another car in the lot. It was not a good start. The instructor said it didn't look good, but let's continue. So they drove onto Markham Road, which can be a very busy, especially for somebody who just had a minor fender bender. Mother's telling the story to me was pretty funny. In the curb lane was a bus stop full of people, and Mother, not knowing, drove through a big puddle and splashed everybody. The instructor calculated Mother had been through enough stress for one day, and we all had a good chuckle under our breaths, of course. Well, Mother isn't one to give up. At some point she did receive her driver's license, and to my knowledge, never encountered any serious liabilities related to her driving record. At the end of the day, we will all miss Mom's sunny and upbeat disposition, but she will always be there in our hearts.
Hi everybody. I'm Joyce's favorite nephew. Clearly she hands out that honorific quite liberally to her favorite son, and at Uncle John's funeral apparently I met the other favorite nephew. So is that other favorite nephew here?
No.
Oh good, so I am officially Joyce's favorite nephew. You guys were lucky with Dean Martin and who else? Yeah, we got stuck with Nana Muscuri and Zamfir Pamphlet at our house. My mother and father unfortunately can't be here today. Mom is 90 years old and Dad is not much behind, and just it's a long way to go for something even as important as this. But she did write a little note. This is Nancy's phone, by the way. It's a little big letters. I so regret that we are not able to attend the service celebrating the life of my sister and friend. To be with family would have been my heart's desire, but I know Joyce would understand our dilemma and be forgiving. Hopefully I'll have many occasions to embrace each of you in the future. I am so thankful for the opportunities I had to chat with my sister over the years, which became almost daily in the last months of her life. Sometimes it was a struggle to find much to talk about, but the times when she was hurting and in pain, I tried to be the shoulder that she could cry on. The Lord heard her despairing cry as well. And then she wants me to quote the book of Ecclesiastes, but I think we've heard enough Ecclesiastes today. So I'll just continue with, and so my dear sister and friend, he heard your prayers and has taken you to a place where there will be laughter and no more tears. The poem is for you, Joyce, with much love and affection. God's Garden by Melissa Shreveport. God looked around his garden and found an empty place. He then looked down upon the earth and saw your tired face. Just like that. He put his arms around you and lifted you to the rest. With the help of his angels, they flew you to your heavenly place. God's garden must be beautiful. He always takes the best. He knew you were suffering and he knew you were in pain. He knew that you would never get well on earth again. He saw the road was getting rough and the hills too hard to climb. He closed your weary eyelids and whispered, peace be done. It broke our hearts to lose you, but you didn't go alone, for part of us went with you the day God called you home. That's from my mom. The rest is me. I didn't write anything down. I've been thinking about this for about a week. I do a lot of driving, and it's amazing when you're stuck in traffic on the 401 how much thinking you can do. I have much later fonder memories of Aunt Joyce and the Keays family than when we were young. apparently, so we grew up in Ottawa, and my cousins and Aunt Joyce and Uncle John were in Toronto, and apparently back then, people didn't travel. Cars were only used for going to the grocery store and apparently nowhere else. But my mom did tell me that that way when I was very young, I was born in 1967, so I don't know, I don't remember it, but apparently she packed the entire Keays clan up, all 5 of you, and you drove to Ottawa December 26th. And I think that was the last time you ever came and visited us as a family. Apparently, it was quite an endeavor. Back then, the snow in Ottawa was pretty deep, and so she swore that she would never do it again. So the rest, I guess the onus was on us to come visit you, and I don't have a lot of memories of that. Really, the ones that popped out were we would visit in Scarborough, and I remember Charlene with the pink hair, and I remember Nancy with the fancy red car, and took me for a drive, and I remember my pretty cousins, and well, mostly pretty. Looking at you, Charlene. And it wasn't until I got a job in the big city in 1996 and moved to Toronto that I became closer to this wonderful family. And I remember my first